Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The subject of the discourse today is Visuddhi Magga. Visuddhi means purification, and Magga in Pali and Marga in Sanskrit means the path. So the topic on which we will discuss today is the path of purification. Now Buddha himself was asked about his own teachings. He said the Buddha was known that he is a discoverer, not one who follows on the beaten path, but one who chisels out a new path altogether for himself and for the whole world, for the good of all. So Buddha's discovery of ultimate truth was put in the form of what is called the middle path, the path that avoids the two extremes of self-mortification on one hand and self-indulgence on the other hand. Kamesu kama sukhalikanuyogo. The involvement in sensual pleasure through everything in life. All that one seeks is pleasure, enjoyment and happiness. So a life given over to pleasure and enjoyment, that is one extreme, and the other, the extreme of torturing oneself in the name of religion. Now both sensuality and self-mortification are practiced in the form of religion or in the name of religion. And that is the greatest tragedy of all. Because when religion is associated with an extreme practice, it acquires respectability. And therein is the matter in the sense that it perpetuates ad infinitum, endlessly. And that is the greatest tragedy today of what is now called religion. Religion throughout the world is very much mixed up with commerce, money-making, sensuality, torturing oneself, violence, terrorism. All these are in the name of religion. Nothing can be more tragic, nothing can be more unhappy. A situation, most unhappy situation indeed, but that is the reality in the name of religion. Now Buddha went totally against that current of religion, that kind of so-called religion and how it can degenerate. Not degenerate in the sense of social degeneration, but degenerate mentally, morally and spiritually. And that is the greatest degeneration. And that has occurred in the past and is occurring now, all in the name of religion. So every seeker of truth, every seeker of excellence, in the sense that life is a moment-to-moment development, and every performance of action, either by way of bodily action, verbal action or mental action, should be such that the previous one is excelled by the present one. When whatever we do now means excelling what we did in the past, that is the measure of progress. That is how we can measure how we are progressing. Now that is the measure of Buddhist life. A life of excellence. From moment to moment we must excel our previous performance and move on the onward path to liberation, Nibbana. That is the goal of spirituality. And that is the goal also of a meaningful life. So every upasaka and upasika who follows the teachings of the Buddha, this must be kept in view, that the life of a Buddhist is dedicated only to one goal, namely freedom, liberation from all sufferings. Sufferings created by life itself, sufferings created by involvement of life in an endless chain of birth, death and rebirth. This wheel of existence, samsara. Now, when we think of liberation as the goal of our life, this liberation must be acquired from moment to moment. It should be visible here and now through every action, every thought, every speech. So the path of purification, the subject of the theme of discourse today, is exactly this. That a path of excellence where your deed is measurable, quantifiable in terms of moment-to-moment progress, in terms of excelling the previous one and going ahead in a way that you can measure, you know that you are going ahead. Now, for instance, to give a few examples, Lobha, dosa, moha. Lobha is greed, desire, lust, sensuality. These are the terms. Dosa is hatred, grudging, enmity, resentment, and all such negative mental conditions. Moha is delusion, ignorance, and such mentally, that which blinds the mind. One becomes mentally blinded when affected by delusion, moha. Now these three are the roots of all unwholesome activities, meaning those activities by which one gets involved in samsaric existence. One defiles the mind, and one, instead of progressing, one regresses, goes backward instead of going forward. So now, these three factors can be made the test for one's how one excels in life from moment to moment. Now if a person is given, let us say, to eating, to gluttony, now just have a look, my dear, around you and in your own family. How much time goes in planning about what you are going to eat? Let us say in the morning a breakfast, and then having had a good breakfast, you start thinking about the lunch in the midday, and keep on planning and imagining, and that is how you develop your breed. And then having had a good lunch, lie down, snore, develop your delusion, develop your ignorance, develop your laziness, all those factors that contribute towards involvement in raga, dvesha, moha, or lobha, dvesha, moha. Then again in the evening you think of what a nice dinner you are going to have. Now this tremendous concern and involvement in the process of eating, if you think deeply and very seriously, what is it that makes us eat? One should eat to live. one should not live to eat. That is wisdom. But the fact is, the whole world is so caught up with eating that you go on count the types of shops and commercial establishments that you have in this very city or elsewhere in the world, you find the eatery or the eating houses, the restaurant, the hotel, they number the greatest. You have the greatest number of eating places. And that is the measure of how humanity is caught by this one action. This is just one action. And there are many such again. So now, the measure of spiritual progress in terms of eating is very visible. Now, for instance, if a person is given to eating, a lot, a big gluttony for that matter, then he or she makes his or her mind and says, well, I am going to eat to live. I am not going to live to eat. Simple principle. And then he or she eats exactly such food that is good for the body, that doesn't contribute towards obesity, fatness, or further greed, or further tummy trouble. How much of tummy trouble there is in the world? All for overeating or wrong type of eating. So now, you make up your mind and you say, no, I shall eat in moderation. Meaning, just what is required for the body and for a healthy life. Nothing more or less. So you discipline yourself, and then you can see that day to day you will make progress. So after maybe 15 days or a month, your eating habit has changed. You no longer crave for this food or that food and dream for this food and that food. No. So this is one way one can measure one's spiritual progress. Similarly, now for instance, dosa. I gave an example of lobha. Now I will give an example of dosa. If you train your mind, if you develop what is called mindfulness, that means attentiveness. Be attentive to whatever you are doing, attentive to whatever you say, attentive to whatever you think. Now you just be mindful, attentive to all, whatever you are doing or saying or thinking. After all, life can be reduced to just action. That is what we do from morning till night. Whatever issue, you be mindful and see what is life. Life is nothing but a series of actions in 3 different modes: bodily action, verbal action, and mental action. Now, just watch what kind of thought that occurs to you, or what kind of speech that occurs to you, or activity that you are caught up during, just let us say, just one day. You will be surprised if your mind tends to be towards dosa, anger or hate or finding fault or grudge, and or jealousy, envy. Now such factors, or even remorse, getting angry with oneself. So, now these factors are very dangerous factors, but that is exactly where the mind gets involved. Like and dislike, finding fault all the time with everybody in the world, but never with oneself. Now just judge your own activities in terms of how many thoughts are angry thoughts, or rooted in dosa, or dvesha, or vairi, and how many are rooted in love, or compassion. Now if you just judge yourself and mindfully make an assessment at the end of the day, how many of your thoughts and actions and speech were rooted either in negativity of anger, hate, etc., or in the positive side of love and compassion and helpfulness, service-mindedness, generosity, some of these. If you now judge yourself in these terms, you can measure exactly how you are progressing. You can measure how you are excelling yourself on the spiritual path from moment to moment, from day to day. So it is not just a very nice sounding and catchy phrase of this progressing and so on. No. It's a very measurable, quantifiable progression. That is what religion, spirituality is. And to that extent, it differs from religion. Religion has its own place, there is no doubt about that, and that is required. But how? Religion is something, it's an institution which human beings have established in order to perpetuate all the good things that human beings have been endowed with, or human beings develop or discover or invent. So now a person develops something very great, very sublime, and when the time comes and passes away, and if there is nobody to hand over, that knowledge or accomplishment is gone there. There it is over. So the institution of religion has been so construed on the basis of spiritual values and moral conduct and mental purity that it is capable of passing on the heritage of goodness, the heritage of nobility, heritage of wisdom and virtue from life, from generation to generation. That is the purpose of Dhamma in the sense of religion. And that is exactly what the Buddha described his teachings to be as religion. But basically in the individual level, now there are two levels in which you should judge this. One is the individual level, the other is the collective level. The individual and the societal. So in the individual level, Buddha described his religion as the path of purification or the path of moderation, the path of middle path that avoids all forms of extremes. And this is done in 3 steps: Sila, Samadhi, Panya. The path of virtue, the path of mental purification, the path of cultivation of wisdom, and therewith liberation. So now this can be further diversified in the form of the Noble Eightfold Path. That is to say, right understanding and right thinking, these two constitute development of wisdom. And right speech, right action, right livelihood, these 3 constitute the development of mental purity, and right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditative concentration. These 3 constitute, you see, the development of mind. And the previous one, I'm sorry, it must be the other way. The right speech, right action, and right livelihood constitute virtue or sila, or the development of morality. So in the Noble Eightfold Path, reduced to the 3 factors, or the 3 factors again diversified into Noble Eightfold. Now if you turn this Noble Eightfold Path into a day-to-day way of living, right living, it amounts to path of purification. Now, part of purification should be therefore understood that it is a process of excellence. You excel from moment to moment or from day to day in the purification of your actions. After all, morality is dealing with action. What is good or what is bad, that is morality. Morality is not created by anybody. It's a law by itself. That which is wholesome, that which is good, that which is noble, that which creates a good destiny, that which brings good fortune here and now. That is the measure of morality, what is good. And the opposite of goodness is what is bad or what is morally negative or unwholesome, immoral. So, morality should be understood in terms of good and bad, but that is not that somebody has said that it is good or bad, or some book or some guru or some religion, whatever it is. Morality is law by itself. It is a law, connected with the action, one's day-to-day conduct. So if our day-to-day conduct is such that it's a process of purification of action, which actions are measurable, they are quantifiable. If I gave the example of eating, for instance, it's an action. Now it involves all the three modes of action. It involves eating, bodily, it's a bodily action. It also, if we are talking at the time of eating, it involves speech. And if we are thinking while eating or while talking and so on, the thought also is involved. So all the three modes are involved in this. How this action can be turned into a spiritual action, morally wholesome action, depends upon how you view your moral conduct. Or if you are taking, eating as a pleasurable thing, well, life is meant to enjoy, you see. The materialistic outlook where you say, yes, eat, drink and be merry. And don't bother, once you die, the body is taken to the crematorium and then you become dust. Finish. That kind of ideology is indeed at the back of all suffering because it is rooted in desire and sensuality. Per contra, now when you say life is an adventure into truth, into reality, life is such that from moment to moment one progresses towards liberation. The goal of life is liberation. To begin with, a measurable, if you want to measure how you are liberating yourself, it simply means how you liberate your mind from greed, how you liberate your mind from hatred, how you liberate your mind from delusion, how you behave in such a way, your manners and your behaviors are such that it's a liberating experience. Now that is how liberation is quantifiable, measurable, because it reflects a process of purity or purification. Liberation is nothing but something, it is the result of purification. To the extent you are purifying yourself more and more, at 4 levels. Purification at the level of morality, Sila, Visuddhi. Purification at the level of mind, psychological or mental purification. And purification at the level of understanding, that is wisdom or insight. And purification in terms of liberation brought about by wisdom. So, you can very clearly distinguish this process of purification. It is not just a doctrine or a theory or any kind of mentally construed sort of concept. No. It's a process which is visible, verifiable. You can measure it, and thus you can actually measure how you are liberating yourself by your own actions, by your own conduct, by your own, the way you develop your mind and purify your mind. So here, there is nothing controversial about it. While religion can bring 100 controversy about God or goddesses, or no God or no God, atheism, theism, thisism, thatism, in spirituality, none of this. There is no controversy about these things at all. Religion can create 100 wars, and it's happening now. All of you know that. Spirituality, no war. It liberates, it frees, because the mind becomes more and more filled with love and compassion. Not with hate, not with greed and sensuality or delusion. So once we distinguish these two things, religion on one hand and spirituality on the other, then you will understand what Buddhism is. Buddhism basically is path of purification, the middle path approach, and that is a spiritual way. And this refers, of course, purification at the individual level. So the individual may bring about purification, may follow the middle path, and thereby bring about liberation. But what about the society? We live not an isolated existence. Human life is gregarious life, which means we live in a community. We don't live singly, isolated way, no. Even the monk or the great yogi who goes to the Himalayan caves or in a forest, isolated, and lives in a tiny little hut, a retreat, he is not isolated. His mind is very much caught up in the world. Yes, his whole life is dedicated to liberating the mind. If he is a good yogi, of course. Then his retreat should only mean freeing the mind so that he may also help others to be freed. We can't isolate ourselves from others. From the time we are born, we are interacting with somebody or other, the mother, the father, the other siblings in the family. So, individual life and collective life are interdependent. They are inseparable. And that way religion comes in Buddhism, in the form of an institution that perpetuates the teachings of liberation discovered by the Buddha, and not following somebody's beaten path. Some people try to make out that Buddhism is already there. Nonsense. It was never there. It's only after the Buddha that this great discovery was made known. Yes, the Four Noble Truths are there all the time. Buddha did not make the Four Noble Truths. He discovered them and bequeathed them to us so that we too might one day discover and get out of the bondage of the world. This fight about religion, you pick up a good thing from some let us say great teacher, and then say, oh yes, I have done it. It is my teaching. And it's very popular because it is blared out in all the radios and TVs and newspapers. It's nothing but cheating oneself. And the world is constantly being cheated by clever men. And these clever men are the most pathetic individuals because they are cheating themselves by their cleverness. So what we need is not cleverness, my dear. What we need is not intelligence, but we need wisdom. Wisdom makes all the difference. Wisdom does not go after egotistic or self-centered interest. Wisdom goes after freedom, after liberation, after compassion, to bring about freedom in everybody, not just be confined to in ourselves. So now coming back to the point of the purification. Sila, I have discussed in the last discourse partly. Today I will again recapitulate what exactly Sila Visuddhi. Because only when you bring about Sila Visuddhi, that is purification of moral life, only then that you can think of Chitta Visuddhi, or purification of the mind itself. You know, a human being, or for that matter any being, can be reduced to just two dimensions of existence. One is the dimension of the world of mind, and the other is the dimension of the world of matter. Nama, Rupa. That's all. The idea of being, that there is a soul or a self, and all such concepts are man-made, man-conceptualized ideas. They are nothing but ideas. There is nothing, you see, what is soul after all self apart from mind? It is mind that creates these ideas. We should not, you see, confound ourselves. These religious or rather philosophical or theological, you see, doctrinaire approach or dogmas mislead the people from spiritual path. Instead of being carried away by these words, go deeply into them and see what exactly they mean. They are not separate from mind. They cannot be separated from mind. So there, ultimately a human being can be reduced to just two things: the mind and the matter. And the so-called soul, etc., or the spirit, etc., they're part of that mind, nothing but that. So, we are not only ultimately, you see, mind and matter, but there is also the subjective world consisting of mind and matter, and the objective world, the external life, external world. And both these cannot be separated again. So we are actually, we constitute, you see, not an island, but a great country, like let us say a continent, which consists of 100 countries or so. So that is what we are, and this Visuddhi, process of Visuddhi, therefore, will have to be such that it is very integrated, it is multifaceted, and it has many dimensions. So here you start with purifying your actions, and then that leads to purification of mind. And when the mind is purified, that brings about the purification of understanding. All that human beings have created in the world, science and technology, humanities, all the various branches of knowledge, all accomplishments in the form of skill, and whatever that you can think of, all that has come about due to understanding things in a certain way. It is the creation of human mind. It is that which has brought about all these various accomplishments and various branches of knowledge, skill, art, everything. So if this understanding can be properly purified, if this can be developed and brought to its fulfillment, there is nothing that a person cannot achieve. So purification also involves purification of one's understanding of things, which starts from, you see, purification of perception. Understanding consists of knowledge. And knowledge starts with perceiving things as we, in a sensory level and then at the psychological level. So purification here therefore involves a very, very big, very complicated scheme of purification, of inner life. So then once we bring about purification of understanding, and we understand things rightly and correctly, and therefore in a way that only improves the quality of life, one's own and others, then the next step is purification of wisdom itself, which means the penetration into the reality of everything that exists. Wisdom is concerned with truth, just as morality is concerned with good and bad. And psychology is concerned with the nature of mind and the potential of mind. And understanding is concerned with how to make the best of one's moral and mental and spiritual potential. So now at the wisdom level, the reality, the truth behind everything, the truth behind morality, the truth behind mind, the truth behind matter, truth behind any accomplishment, anything in life. So the search for truth, the attainment of truth, realization of truth, that is the business of wisdom. Now this wisdom itself, after all, is something that is in our mind. You can't separate wisdom from mind. So when you purify the mind, you purify your understanding. And when you purify your understanding, you purify your wisdom. And wisdom is not the end again. We live in a world of step-by-step progression. So wisdom leads to liberation, freedom. Ultimately, when Buddha was asked, what is the ultimate purpose of life, Bhagavan? Oh Lord, what is this business of living? Why do we live? What is the end of our life? Bhagavan said, look, a very beautiful analogy, he says, this vast ocean, miles and miles and miles, deep and deep, it has only one taste, the taste of salt. And this life, which is as vast and profound, as complicated and complex, has only one purpose, the purpose of being free, liberated, and liberated from the bondage created by mind itself. So this liberation is the ultimate measure of purification. Purification has one aim alone, namely bringing freedom. If you purified yourself in the action level, bring about moral purification, you are liberated from all misfortune. You are liberated from all suffering that comes from lack of morality, lack of ethics, lack of good conduct, lack of goodness. So morality brings about freedom in the form of all good things of life that we enjoy. Why do you think in this world there are rich people and poor people? There are lucky people and unlucky people. Why these inequalities which no system of politics or economics or any other system can remove? Humanity is steeped in inequality, my dear. Have no delusion about it. The so-called idea of equality, yes, that refers only to equality of opportunity, not that everybody is equal. No, that doesn't happen. But that does not mean that you must believe in a hierarchical system like the caste system or racism. No. Inequality is in terms of ethical life, in terms of ethical endowment. A child is born poor in a poor house. No God has done that. That child has lived an ethically negative life in the past and is paying a price for that. But he can become rich, he need not remain poor. Buddhism does not condemn a person from birth, saying you are born in this caste, therefore you will die in that caste. No. You are born poor, therefore you are condemned to be poor. No. You can be rich. You are born fool, you can be wise. That is the difference between Buddhism or any other religious ideal. Birth does not determine one's greatness or smallness, inferiority or superiority. It is the amount of exertion, amount of wisdom, amount of goodness, amount of purity that we bring about in life. That determines. Now, today we will leave it at that. We will keep up this process, this theme of purification. I wish all of you happiness, my dear. All the devotees that you come from various places, keep in your mind that life becomes meaningful only when you excel from moment to moment and excel in terms of purification. How you purify your action, your speech, your thought, that determines how you purify your mind. And how you purify your mind itself determines how you purify your understanding. And how you purify your understanding determines how you realize the truth, penetrate into the ultimate reality, and be liberated thereby. May you all be happy. May the grace of Lord Buddha, the embodiment of all virtue, compassion and wisdom, surround your life with wisdom, goodness and virtue. May you all be happy and well.